Hey, this is Reverend Walter Mwambazi, Prosperity Insights, and glad to have you on the show. As always, a big fat shout. And today I'm actually joined by a great, good friend of mine, and he's a mentor to many, many people. Actually, this is a young man. I'm calling him a young man because I'm actually about, 15 years older than him. So I can call him a young man. Well, point is, he has been a mentor to many people. I mean, he's built an organization with well over 100, between 10 to 15,000 active entrepreneurs all across the world. He has been able to build himself up to quite a sizable income. Let's just say it's a 7-figure annual income in US dollars. And he's only 29, eh? And he's done this in the space of 5 years, and he's done some amazing things. And so I think today would be great just to get an idea of how exactly that happened. He's got a great backstory, and we thought on Prosperity Insights we could start with us. Now he's a South African, white South African, but African. So he's been there his whole life and has then grown on to become something great. And so what we're doing today is we have him here in the studio. We have been doing a Zambia tour, which started in Kitwe, went over to Ndola, then we were in Kabwe, and then now we're going to be in Lusaka today in the evening and Saturday morning as well. So right now, let me do this and introduce to our studios Oliver Grimbly. Oliver, you're most welcome.
Hey, Rev, thanks so much for that incredible introduction.
Great one. So, who's Oliver Grimbly?
I am that I am. No, I'm just kidding. My passion is to really inspire people towards their full potential. And how I do that currently, more recently, has been through the business which we're busy launching now throughout Zambia. Maybe we'll start with a couple of questions and then
kind of build to that.
Yeah.
So let's begin by your background. What's your story? What's your background? Because sometimes when people hear white South African making 7-figure income a year, it's like, yeah, he was born into privilege. He had a silver spoon in his mouth. I mean, what's the real story? Because most people don't know your story.
Yeah, good question. Well, I come from a middle-class family. Both my parents, my mother worked in the corporate world actually. So I was used to seeing her work a 9 to 5, coming home stressed, not spending much time with the family. And then my dad was on the other end of the spectrum. He had all the time in the world, and he didn't even have to work because he had properties and he had businesses which were producing residual income. So I saw the entrepreneurial spectrum and I saw the corporate world trading time for money spectrum from a young age. And that helped me to really get a good idea of what I wanted to be and what I didn't want to be, and that for sure was not working for somebody else.
Okay, but how early was this? How soon did you realize?
I think it was a progression. When you're young, you obviously you're not worrying so much about making money and things. You're at school, but I think the whole time that was still being programmed into my subconscious, just throughout the course of my life. And as I got older and I went through the schooling system, and when I started actually studying, finding out that there's this whole industry called self-development, personal empowerment, that's when I really realized that the whole, schooling educational system is fundamentally flawed.
Amazing thought.
Where they're teaching our kids and they're teaching us in general, to work to build somebody else's dream, not to build your own dream, not to empower yourself. They don't teach you financial literacy. They don't teach you how to think creatively. They, the educational system's there to pretty much teach you to be a product of the system, unfortunately.
Yep, that's so true.
Yeah.
But then your story starts with tennis. Tell us a bit about that, because that's a really interesting thing. So there you are, you finish your school.
Yeah,
you're what, 17, 18?
Actually, at about 16, I picked up a tennis racket and I realized I had a love for the game. And I started playing only about 3 times a week, but I managed to get into the top 50 ranked juniors in the country by 18. And then when I had graduated, from high school, most kids were going to school, going to university or getting a job, whatever the case may be. But I just knew that wasn't the path for me. And, I was serious about following what I really was passionate about. I'm a big believer that the heart can feel faster than the mind can think.
True.
So I just followed my heart, and I was lucky enough to have parents that gave me an opportunity to have a gap year. So they said, listen, we'll give you a year where you can play tennis and try figure out what you want to do. And during the course of that year, I just worked hard. I'm a big believer that you might not have as much time, but if you put in 10x the effort in the same amount of time, you can produce 10x the results.
Agreed.
And in that year, I managed to actually end the year getting into the main draw of the South African Open.
Nice.
Just to give you an idea, the top 3-4 ranked juniors in the country didn't even make the cut for that draw.
Wow.
So that was amazing, and those results ended up giving me the ranking to be able to have enough credibility to potentially get a scholarship to the USA.
Okay, so now tell us this. I know your story, but I want listeners to hear this. Scholarship to the USA. We know you got the scholarship, but what I want people to hear is how you got the scholarship. Because a lot of people say, yeah, well, he must have been exceptionally brilliant, so you know how it is. If you're talented, people will see you. Your story is interesting, and I think it's true of many people. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm actually, I'm actually quite proud of myself for managing to do this.
Yeah.
But what happened is, the next step was to get to the United States. Tennis in South Africa is decent at a junior level, but at a senior level, open level, it really isn't thriving.
Yeah, there just isn't enough support.
Exactly.
In terms of sponsorship and what have you.
Exactly. So, my the fate was looking at me in the face, and I had to make a decision. Do I now give up the tennis and settle for, going to university and just going that path, or do I keep trying to pursue the dream and try to keep it alive? And my parents, they were not going to fund me. They were not going to pay for the tennis academy to produce the videos and stuff, and or a recruiting agency to get me to the US.
Sponsored or seen
Yeah,
or
exactly. And I mean, that was, I think at the time it was about 20,000 Rand, South African to set that up. And my parents said, no, sorry, figure it out. Otherwise, you got to go to make a plan. And it took me a couple days, but eventually I came up with the idea to take a old little phone. I mean, this is 2007, I think. So I took a phone at the time with a very basic camera. And
probably a BlackBerry.
Yeah, probably a BlackBerry or something. And I called a friend of mine and I said, hey, let's go out and hit some balls. And I literally balanced this camera phone on the tennis net on the pole.
Wow.
And I just clicked record, and I just went in front of the camera, and I just was honest. I said, hey, my name is Oliver Grimbly. I'm South African. I have a dream to play college tennis. I've been dreaming this since I was young, and I hope you enjoy this video. And I went out and I hit some balls, and there was even a bulldozer busy demolishing a house in the background. You can still hear it. The videos on YouTube. And I went home. I have absolutely no video editing skills, so I just uploaded it raw on YouTube like that, and took the link, and I went online, and I spent the next better half of 6 months staying up till about 3 a.m. every single day, sending emails to different universities in the United States. Amazing. And I sent about 5,000 emails. 5,000
emails?
Yeah, about 5,000 emails, and I was on the verge of giving up. Many coaches replied, are you crazy? This video is pathetic. How could you expect to even think of getting a scholarship with a video like this? But despite the responses, I just kept going. I just kept sending those emails with the hope that some coach out there sees potential. And one morning at 4:00, my phone rings. I answered the phone. I'm like, who the hell's calling me,
At 4 a.m.
And then I hear this American accent, and then it clicked. I'm like, oh, wow. Like, they're obviously 6-7 hours behind us. So I realized, this must be a coach. And then I put on my, my game face, and I was on the phone there for an hour.
Wow.
And let's just say at the end of that call, it ended with, Oliver, pack your bags. You're on a full scholarship to the US.
Now, there you have it. I wanted a number of you to hear that story first before you hear how he transitioned into where he is today, and to demonstrate the power of resilience, because that's so interesting that here's a guy who's really talented. I mean, people don't waste scholarships on idiots. So they know that this guy has potential, has talent, but look at the effort that went in. 5,000 emails. How many people give up on 5 emails? Go on, Oliver.
Yeah, so I remember I remember going, and obviously being a kid, you're super excited. You run to your parents' bedroom, wake them up, Mom, Dad, I got a scholarship to America. I'm going. I did it. And my parents are like, go back to bed, man. You're freaking crazy, only to wake up in the morning and realize it was real. So yeah, and that was the beginning of the rest of my life.
Correct. So you go to the US, you do your thing, you get an opportunity to really thrive, and then later on you make the change. So what brought you into the personal development space, going from tennis? Because you did pretty well in tennis, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just drop a few names just to give people an idea of the level you reached.
Yeah, so I mean, I started off at a Division II institution, which is, the second tier level in terms of college tennis.
Okay.
And when I got to the US, I immediately came in at the number one spot on that team. But gradually, I must be honest, my level of tennis did decrease slightly because there was a lot of pressure on me. I wasn't used to the environment. I struggled to adapt. And I also was one of those kids that wanted to have a little bit of everything. I wanted to also have the lifestyle. I wanted the tennis. I wanted a bit of everything. So it was challenging, but I grew a lot, and I grew emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And during the course of the time at that university, I'll never forget, one day my coach said to me, because I said to him, listen, do you think I could play D1? And he says to me, I don't think that's a realistic option for you. And I just remember the day he said that. It's like I can see it in my mind. The moment he said that to me, I knew I was going to play D1. It was like, game on, this guy.
I'm going to show this guy.
Yeah, and the very, very next semester, I was at a Division I school. I actually had offers from some of my dream colleges, one being Palm Beach Atlantic in West Palm Beach, Florida, which is a nationally ranked college. And I ended up going through to New Jersey and Texas, but finally graduating from the University of New Orleans, which was also a Division I institution. And I had the privilege of playing at LSU and at top schools against some really great players, and it was just an amazing experience.
Great. So transitioning into personal development.
Yeah. So I realized at a certain point that
What age?
I'd say I was probably about 21.
Okay, so
and
3 years. Basically.
Yeah. So and I'd realized, like, physically speaking, I'd got to a level where I couldn't get much better, and then I started to realize that this game was more mental than anything.
Correct.
In fact,
I think most games are at that level, because it's no longer your prowess in terms of physical, but it's more about your mental.
100%. So, in fact, one of my coaches, Johan Crick, he was a 2-time Grand Slam champion. He told me his opinion is it's 90% mental. That much.
Wow.
Which is incredible. So I started delving into all sorts of different books. But then in getting into the tennis books and the self-development of the tennis and the mental side, those books led me onto other books as well that started to just open my mind to things like the power of thinking, and I realized this is much bigger than just tennis. This is a whole philosophy, of being able.
It's a whole mindset.
Exactly, of actually understanding that thoughts are things, and that you can actually create your life with the power of your mind.
True that.
And that just opened the doors to me to a whole nother world.
So you dropped the tennis. Well, I mean, we only have a few minutes, so we have to just fast forward this. So you dropped the tennis and fast forward into the financial personal development space.
Yeah, well,
how did that happen?
Well, actually, after college, I ended up playing a little bit of futures, which is like entry-level ATP tournaments.
Correct.
And about 8 months into that, the rand dollar, I don't know if you know, but when I went over, it was about 7 rand to the US dollar. By that time, it was 14 rand to the US dollar. So what the money my parents were sending me was literally divided in half.
No.
So I had no choice really but to come back to South Africa, because I didn't have any sponsorship or financial support. And I thought to myself, let me come back to South Africa while I try figure out, if I'm going to continue with the tennis or what I'm going to do. And during the course of my time back in South Africa, I spent my weekends going to seminars. right? Where most kids are obviously going out at that age, drinking, having fun, looking for girls or whatever. I was taking that time to go to seminars and to learn as much information as I could. And
so lots of personal development, lots of learning.
Lots of learning. I paid the price. I mean, and I would always be the guy that took more notes than anyone else in the room.
You'd be the one first in, last out.
Yeah, 100%. I was there first and I was the last person to leave, and I networked. I met people, I spoke to people, and I just I was just always around, learning anything I could. I was like a sponge, just absorbing information. I actually came across a serial entrepreneur who's an international business coach, and I realized very quickly that if I wanted to get an opportunity with him, I would need to add value.
Correct.
So what I did is I found...
Because it's not about going to people and saying, what can you do for me? But it's about, what can I do to help,
Yes,
whatever.
yes, 100%. So what I did is I realized, you don't always have to add value with money, right? Money is just one resource, but all of us have different skills. And I knew I could play tennis. So what I did is, one of the people in the inside circle of this business guru loved tennis. And I just gave him free tennis lessons, right?
That's me clapping, guys. I love that, Oliver. That's so smart. Go on.
Yeah, so I mean,
because he loved tennis,
yeah.
and so you say, well, hey, I'm pretty high up in this thing.
Yeah, 100%, and he got great enjoyment out of it. He was challenged from it, because obviously I would be beating up on him, and I mean, this guy was a good player, but luckily I just come off out of college.
Correct. So you just had a better hand.
Probably beat me now, but
yeah, true.
But at the time I really just added value. And at one point, he enjoyed my company and so much that he said to me, listen, why don't you come through to one of our events in Sandton, and have a shot at being a strategist and actually, selling some of the business coaching programs that we do. And I said, listen, I've never been in sales in my life. I'm like, I don't even have a business suit. I've got tennis shorts and a t-shirt. So long story short, being the opportunist that I am, I rocked up there in my matric dance outfit. Nice. I'm not even kidding.
Okay.
The business guru, who was the main guy, came out and he said, who's this kid? And Charlie, who's the friend of mine, said, this is Oliver, he's great, and I'm just standing there thinking, oh my gosh, like, pressure's on. And the business guru said, not a chance, put on a security guard t-shirt. So I put on a security guard t-shirt, and I was basically just walking around being his security guard for the first 2 days of the seminar. And during that seminar, I got to meet Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, who I got to chat to a little bit, and I just got to oversee great minds like this, Robert Kumede, Joanna McCorkey, so different South African entrepreneurs, but also a couple international ones that I got to meet and listen to. But on the third day, I realized that when they were doing all the sales, that they were never going to get through all of the people. There was just too many people at that event, and I realized there was an opportunity for me. And I said, I said to the guy who was in charge of the sales, I said, listen, your business strategists, your sales guys are never going to get through all of these leads. So why not just give me a shot at the bottom half, you know, because you guys are not going to pitch them anyway. And long story short, Charlie said, this is what you say. Gave me not even 30 seconds of training. They gave me a stack of about 10 leads. And the long and the short of it is, after 3 hours, I had outsold his whole entire sales team.
Wow.
I'd done about $60,000-$70,000 in sales, whereas they had done between 10 and about 30. And I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. To this day,
so it just came natural to you.
So I guess it just came natural.
I had to.
And that was just crazy. I mean, the manager at the end of the seminar said, listen, pack your bags, you're flying to Amsterdam. And over the course of the next 8 months, I was in over 20 countries as an international business strategist, consulting on people, consulting to elite entrepreneurs all over the world on how we could help them to expand their businesses. So
amazing.
That was
your entry.
That was my entry.
So tell us a bit about the middle before we get to where you are now.
Yeah. So during the course of that,
especially in terms of who you had the privilege of interacting with, because you do your profile shows quite a number of amazing names.
Yes.
To imagine that you had the opportunity of being in those circles before coming into the personal franchise that you're in today.
Yeah. So obviously, being in that environment, I was always around entrepreneurs that were building businesses or successful. But one thing I learned is your self-image is very, very important, you know.
Okay.
So even if you're not specific, if you're not successful financially, if you dress the part, if you look the part, if you can carry yourself and believe that you belong with the, you know, the lions,
yes.
you can hang out
Yeah.
with the lions. So I would just,
Even if you feel like a
Yeah.
sheep inside.
and I didn't interject or give my opinion. Most of the time, I would just listen. You know, you got 2 ears, you got 2 eyes, and 1 mouth.
Yeah.
You know, so look twice, listen twice, speak once.
Once.
And I lived by that, and I just absorbed as much information as I could wherever I went. And during the course of that year, I met a gentleman by the name of Peter Sage. To this day, I tell everyone the most instrumental leadership figure that I've had in my life. And it was the first time I saw somebody speak, but he didn't only speak on business, but he also had the spiritual element to him. So he had a philosophy which was all centered around growth and contribution. And, you know...
So it's not just about getting. It's
Exactly.
about giving.
Yeah, it was a heart-based form of leadership, and it just spoke to me, and I realized that was what I wanted. I didn't want the pure raw business on extreme, which is what I was in. I wanted a combination of the business and the spiritual aspect intertwined, and Peter had that. And we became great friends, you know, and in exchange for me helping him out with some of his marketing and things, again, he mentored me for free. I couldn't afford his coaching, but I found a way to add value so that he could add value. You know, resourcefulness is the ultimate resource.
Agreed.
And yeah, we actually developed a great relationship. I ended up leaving the other organization and moving into working full-time with Peter. That ended up resulting in a friendship which still is strong today.
Amazing.
He came to South Africa. I helped him to facilitate a tour which resulted in packing rooms with over 400 people in Joburg, Cape Town, and Durban.
Amazing.
And you know, we just built a great relationship. And then eventually he introduced me to the amazing business which we're now launching throughout Zambia.
Nice. So, as you know, being radio, we need to just talk about the concept behind the business without necessarily mentioning the name.
Yes.
But just give an idea, because with the personal franchise model, there's a lot of quacks. There's a lot of nonsense. There's a lot of hyperbole, hot air, and fluff. And how did you get past that? Because obviously you were coming from this solid business side. You were already doing pretty well for yourself. What drew you there?
So firstly, you know, I'd actually heard about this company from 6 or 7 different people in this model of business, and I'd always not been interested.
Correct.
But the moment,
because there's too much hot air, fluff, and nonsense, basically.
yeah, and also the people that were telling me about it weren't more successful than I was at the time.
And that's the toughest sale, isn't it?
100%. But when Peter himself said to me, "Listen, you know, have a look at this business," I said, "I'm going to listen." Because this is Peter telling me, it's not just Joe.
And he's a mentor.
Yeah,
And he's doing very well.
Yeah, and that's why I thought, let me have a look at this business model. And when I started to do my research and actually look at the numbers, I always say people lie, numbers don't. You know,
True.
And I looked at the numbers and I said to myself, geez, you know, $186 billion industry. That's double the size of Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's double the size of the organic food industry.
Amazing.
I mean, this is an industry which is globally growing at a pace which not many industries are growing at. This is an industry which has created more self-made millionaires than almost any industry. This is an industry in which business leaders like Richard Branson and Robert Kiyosaki and Warren Buffett endorse.
And even Donald Trump.
And even Donald Trump. So, you know, this is an industry that clearly is credible, right? All you got to do is make sure that you actually do your homework, and you make sure that you actually find a company that has a solid foundation, most importantly, right? Because everything rises and falls on leadership.
And I love that. I mean, I want us to just wind up with that, rising and falling on leadership. And then we wind up by letting them know what's happening today. But rising and falling on leadership, explain that a little bit, because that's an aspect which I think somebody once said, I think it was Obama who said, Africa doesn't need more leaders, it needs more institutions. But then you say everything rises and falls on leadership. Of course, John C. Maxwell. Just clarify that.
Yeah, I mean,
listening today.
You know, you can take any business and you can look at that business, and if there's problems in that business, it always comes down to the leadership.
I agree.
You know, you could take a Richard Branson, you could put him in any business, that business will turn around.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's the entrepreneur that actually is the key element in the business,
Yeah.
not the business itself. And leadership and having the right foundational values, the core values, of integrity, is essential,
Yeah.
because people can see
You
through
are
that.
what you say, and you say what you are.
Yeah, so 100%. So the foundation, just like think about it. You build a house, you build a building, right? If there's no foundation, guess what? It's a matter of time before that building falls over.
True that.
And there's plenty companies out there that just go out there. They got the marketing, they got all of this. It looks good, great. It's exciting, but really, where's the substance? What's at the foundation?
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
So therefore, so tell us about what's happening in Zambia so that people know, because now this evening you're right now at Cosmic Executive Lodge behind Radisson Blue, doing a presentation, and it'll be awesome. And then on Saturday as well. Just give us a bit of a taste about what's been going on in Zambia.
Yeah, well, I think Africa, firstly, just to tell people, I think this is the future of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Africans have by nature a really phenomenal way of seeing things in a creative light. We are entrepreneurial as a culture, and not only that, we're looking for opportunities. And that's exactly what I'm here to do. I'm here to show people how, you don't need the days of having to have, millions to buy a franchise are over. The days of having to, trade time for money and work for somebody else in a corporation, and the safety and the security that comes with that are over. The experts are predicting that in the next 20 years, 60 to even 80%, some say, of jobs as we know them won't even exist.
True that.
Yeah, this is what...
Jobs are already being exported.
Yeah.
Jobs are already being personalized to individuals in their rooms, in their setup.
Yeah, so you can call it the fourth industrial revolution, whatever you want to call it, but that's the reality. We are moving into a sharing economy, an age of data, an age of information, and you must realize the world is flat. 5-10 years ago, you could not just speak to somebody in the US or in Australia for free. It was quite a mission to do that. And if you managed, you would need a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now you can jump on WhatsApp, you can jump on Facebook, and you can call somebody in high quality video anywhere in the world for free. True. And that instantly...
And conference, for crying out loud.
And that instantly changes the game.
Yeah.
So, if you're thinking local, you need to change, because the game is now global.
Yeah.
And that means it's online. So if you can have a business which is online, guess what? You can earn income 24 hours a day.
That's what I love about it. And then automated.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're launching a company which is extremely credible. In fact, it's the fastest growing company in the home-based business industry in the world, right? It hit $1 billion in 6 years. I mean, just to give you an idea, that's the same time as Apple, Google, Amazon, right? And eBay. But here's the thing. Do those companies allow you to partner with them and leverage off them?
Never.
Exactly. This is the first
As we say in
one.
Zambia, can't never.
This is the first one ever in history that actually gives you the opportunity to partner with them, and not for an ridiculous amount of money. In fact, for almost no money.
True.
You can partner with this company, and then you can leverage off a platform in over 150 countries.
Yeah.
From home, you could literally, in a matter of 2 to 5 years, completely liberate yourself financially.
Yeah.
And
for me, Oliver, that's what makes it so exciting. To all the listeners out there, that's the reason why we're so excited that we have this tour, and there'll be several that'll be coming on. So you need to make sure that you find your way to where we will be. So here it is, a last parting word from my main man, Oliver, before we get to the other part of the show and let you guys call in. Oliver, some parting words.
I would just want everyone to know that, firstly, you are already that which you seek, right?
Yeah.
You're good enough. There's no one out there that can tell you, you need to do X or Y to be good enough. Here's the thing, is most people are doing things and engaged in things because they're worrying about what other people think about them. They're trying to impress people, whether it be your family, society, your friends, whatever it is. And you're not doing what really, truly lights you up inside, what actually makes you feel fulfillment. The thing is, you've only got one life. And you've got to make a decision at some point, because if you don't, in the next 5 years, you're going to be plus minus 10% in income where you are right now. Nothing's going to change. So for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. If I left an amazing career as a business strategist for this, I think
some top names in the world.
Exactly. Then you should have a look. It's changed my life. It's given me complete time freedom, which is key, because a lot of people make money, but they don't necessarily have the time to do what they want. And this is the only business I know that can give you that same sort of lifestyle, income, and more importantly, the ability and the platform to change other people's lives that you love and care about, with none of the risk of a traditional business.
There you go. So the business doesn't own you, you own the business. So there you have it, guys. I hope you had a great insight from this man, Oliver. And we are this very minute at Cosmic Lodge, so you need to make your way there. If you can't, then listen to the information that's coming just now. Have a great one.